Hi, this is Stephanie Calahan, and you're listening to Me, Myself, and I Radio.
This is the second installment. Please, if you already haven't done so, listen to the first segment of the show, Part 1. Good morning, good afternoon, hip hip hooray. This is Me, Myself, and I Radio, a self-discovery podcast. It's all about being extraordinary under extraordinary circumstances. I'm your host, Anthony Hayes. Welcome to the journey called life. Let's go.
Sometimes in life, things can come across as rather odd or often peculiar, a little like the way that you decide to tune into other radio stations other than ours.
So hard last night, my lids are swollen. Got my guitar, gotta get to a studio. Got a track and I think it's gonna hit, yo. It's been so many years and there's been so many tears, and it's gonna be well worth the pain, see, when all my people line up to see me. Cause I got no money, got no home.
If you enjoyed that introduction song, that is Lovestruck Robot coming through again with the tunes, this time with Do It All for the Dream. Head on over to lovestruckrobot.com or download that on iTunes right now.
I am a recovering workaholic, I am a recovering perfectionist, and I am a recovering people pleaser. I had to realize that I was addicted to work, which is an interesting addiction, right? I mean, you hear people talk about alcoholism or drug addiction or,
being
game
a workaholic
addiction,
is a real thing too, obviously.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And I said, ultimately, I had to learn how to love me and figure out what was going on with my health. And fortunately, I was introduced to a guy in private practice. He's a solopreneur that listened to me and helped me figure out what was going on. I fired all my doctors, every single one of them. Ultimately learned that a good number of them had me misdiagnosed. And, you mentioned depression a minute ago. At one point, I had been diagnosed with major depression. At one point, I had been diagnosed with bipolar disease. At one point, I had been diagnosed with polycystic ovarian disease. I mean, I had this litany of things that I was diagnosed with, and it turns out I didn't have any of those things. But the medications that they had me on for those things actually made my particular situation worse.
Yeah, and it does for some people. At any point during that, or I mean, it sounds like you did kind of, but did you started to believe these doctors and these situations and these diagnoses, and they kind of became you? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you go to a medical professional, or at least I used to go to a medical professional, and you think they go to school for a really long time to be able to help you. What I learned ultimately is that the best person to talk to about your medical situation is yourself. And now I'm not saying I self-diagnose, don't get me wrong. I still seek professionals, but I also seek my own inner knowing of, does this sound right? And if it doesn't sound right, it's okay to question. It's okay to research. It's okay to seek another opinion. Ultimately, what occurred in my situation is, before we had moved, when my son was still a very newborn infant, we lived in a 2-story home, and I was at the top of the stairs carrying him, and I just had socks on, didn't have shoes on, and I slipped going down the stairs, and I fell down the stairs. Well, now I've got my newborn infant in my arms, right? The only thing that was important to me falling down those stairs was that nothing happened to my baby. And so I hit my head multiple times going down those stairs and landed at the bottom of the stairs for quite a bit of time. I'm not really sure how long. Fortunately, my stepson happened to be visiting, and I asked him to get the baby and put him in his carrier until I could catch my breath and kind of figure out, okay, what next? Now, what I should have done at that very moment is call for help and go seek medical attention and make sure I was okay. I didn't do that. I caught my breath. I kind of checked the baby out. He was fine. I was really more focused on him than I was me. And I continued on with life. But that was the starting point for me having some of these other symptoms. As it turns out, I mentioned that these other diagnoses that I had, it actually turned out that I had neurotransmitter damage. So your neurotransmitters are the electronic hubs, so to speak, in your brain that fire and capture different signals. And mine were disrupted from that fall. And I didn't know it. For years, I didn't know it.
Sure.
And so that was causing stress and strain on my body. The medication they were giving me from the misdiagnosis was actually making the neurotransmitter problem worse. I was overworking, and my adrenaline system stopped functioning. So your adrenaline system, your adrenal gland, it's this teeny tiny gland, is what creates the baseline chemicals for the rest of your body to create hormones. So when my adrenal gland stopped working, which, by the way, there are a huge number of people in America that are in some kind of adrenal fatigue and don't know it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Lots and lots of people in some form of adrenal fatigue and just don't know it because we're go, go, go society. But mine stopped working. And so when it stopped working, then my thyroid didn't have what it needed. My ovaries didn't have what they needed. And so I just started shutting down from the inside out. And that's, it all kind of came to a head in 2009. And at that point, I was definitely existing more than living.
Yeah.
By this point, David, our youngest, was in second grade. And he took care of me more than I took care of him. And that was unbelievably humbling. At night, I wouldn't have enough energy to come to the kitchen table for dinner. So he would cut it up like a toddler, and he'd come to the family room and he'd help me eat. So roles were definitely reversed for a while. He grew up really fast during that time. I saw the caregiving, empathetic side of him come out. And I'm super, super grateful that I was able to find one of these world changers. And there's loads and loads of world changers that don't know they're world changers. But I found a solopreneur that helped me figure all this stuff out. That helped me figure out about the neurotransmitter damage and helped me figure out, how to heal my adrenals. And rather than getting this death sentence of, get your affairs in order, which I had doctors that told me that, I didn't have to do that. I was able to use a lot of different healthy methodologies to get myself here today to have this conversation. And while that wasn't...
That's so awesome.
Thank you. While that wasn't an easy time in life, it was also the time in life that I learned how to listen to me, because one of the things I had to do was just stop.
Yeah. I think I have a huge problem with that. I think a lot of people have a huge problem with that. And as you alluded to, you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I think that over the years, especially in, different relationships, and in my marriage that I was in, it was just one of those things where I didn't know how to exist anymore. I didn't know how to exist without them. I think I became codependent, might have been part of it, but I think it was a culmination of a lot of these things and just those mental, almost like it's some type of immaturity, like something that I just wasn't able to function and process these emotions properly. And I think it wasn't until recently, like the past few years, where all these things really started to come, into being, if you will. And I found for me, a lot of my success came with writing, getting these feelings out, getting these emotions out. Along the way, did you have any resources like that you used to kind of process?
Oh, I love that question. And we could do an entire show just on that question. The first thing that I
think basically what I'm asking you is, when does your book come out?
Right.
I would be the first person to read it. Yeah.
Thank you. One of the first things that I had to do was learn how to be quiet. And that sounds kind of weird to some people, but I was always on the go. I I was the type of person that when everyone, even in college, when everyone would sit down to watch an episode of some show, I was the one that was listening to the show while I did other things. And if I missed something, I'd say, oh, hey, what did I just miss? Because I couldn't sit still even for a 20 or 30-minute show.
Yeah.
And
oh, I know that all too well.
yeah, and so, but with the whole adrenal gland failing, that car is burnt out, that automobile is totally burnt out. I didn't have a choice. So and even things like the flickering light on a TV actually drains your adrenal system, right? So I was told, read more. I was told, laugh more. I was told, walk outside in bare feet and just breathe. And when I was first told those things, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I can't do that. But I found a way to do that, right? I had a pretty big motivator.
I love that.
And I learned how to read for fun again. I did it all the time when I was in elementary school, and that kind of was something that went by the wayside. So I have that in a practice today. Every day I read for fun for at least 20 to 30 minutes.
Cool. That's such a great habit.
It's something that feeds me, right? It's something that feeds into me. I learned how to listen to me, like really listen to me. Not what a lot of us typically do of we get an idea and then we immediately fluff it away.
Sure.
I actually practiced asking myself questions and then waiting to hear what the answer was and not blowing off the answer, not justifying the answer away. And I created this practice that I now teach my clients and anybody else that'll listen. I call it the resentment test, because I found that there were so many things that I said yes to that really weren't a yes, because I wasn't good at saying no. And so now, with everything that comes my way, whether it's how I'm going to price a new program, or somebody in the community asking me to be on a committee, or my son saying, hey mom, can I go do whatever? I run it past a resentment test, and it's really unbelievably simple once you learn how to do it. Right. And that's just very simply, you get quiet with yourself and you say, if I say yes to this, will I experience any resentment at all? Any resentment at all? And if there's a yes, even if it's a teeny tiny yes, then the answer to the question is no. Now, that doesn't mean that you're constantly saying no. Then the next step to that is that you have an opportunity to figure out how to make it a yes.
Oh,
so
yes,
the
mindset change shift. I like that.
Right,
that's so cool.
Exactly.
Now, just to back up a little bit, there was 3 things that you had mentioned. It was read more, go outside, walk with bare feet. Could you repeat those 3 things? I love that. People got to hear that one more time.
Yeah, read more for fun, laugh more, which I actually combine the two. I got really good at just reading different things just for fun and laughing and allowing myself to laugh out loud and really get my whole body into the laughter. There's healing in laughter. Going out and just experiencing nature, whether that's walking barefoot in the grass. I invested time to just go and be, which I know with your book, you've got to appreciate.
Oh man, she did it. She did it, tribe. I don't know if you guys are listening close enough, but Stephanie's just dropping wisdom, and I mean, just everything that we're about here on Me, Myself, and I with the show and the book. By the way, don't read my book if you want to laugh. It's definitely not funny. Anyway, Stephanie just has lived that every day, and I think that her message so directly relates to the theme of the show. She just gets it. She just gets it. And even before we got on, the way she was talking and some of the sentences and the words that she was using, I was like, oh man, I love this lady. Too bad she's married.
Yep, happily married for many, many years to an awesome puzzle piece of mine.
That's so great.
You bring that up, and that reminds me of another thing that I started very actively doing that made a huge difference. And that's practicing gratitude. And,
yeah.
Around Thanksgiving time, many of us, start posting on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter or wherever. We're talking about, what are you grateful for? What
Yeah.
I've found is that a daily practice of gratitude keeps me in tune with what's truly important to me.
Yeah,
And
like
it
a
keeps me
gratitude
grounded.
journal or something.
Yeah.
Totally cool.
So when my son was little, we started this practice called the Golden List. And essentially what that means is you start the day by listing 10 things that you're grateful for. Now here's the deal. When you start this practice, sometimes you're like, I don't have anything to be grateful for, because you're not used to practicing gratitude. It doesn't have to be big. When I very first started, I had a buddy who was in the military and who was in Afghanistan sleeping in trenches, right? I'm grateful for my bed. I'm grateful for my pillows. I'm grateful for my blankets, right?
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful that the lunch I ate tasted good. It doesn't have to be big. I'm grateful that the plants in my office aren't dying because I've remembered to water them this time.
I'm
it doesn't
so bad with mine.
it doesn't have to be huge things. It can be very simple things in your life that you're glad they're there. I'm grateful that I had a teacher that taught me how to do X. I'm grateful that I had a teacher that didn't believe in me so I could prove him wrong.
Ooh, yeah. I love the naysayers.
There's not a right or wrong in gratitude practice, and everybody, if you look at your life, can find 10 things that you're happy is going on in your life, that you're grateful is there. Right?
Yes.
I'm grateful that I have a car that works. I'm grateful that I have a bus route that gets me to where I need to go. I'm grateful that I have a job. I'm grateful that I have family that love me. I'm grateful that I have friends that support me. Whatever your list is, there's no right or wrong to it. And what I found is that the more that I practiced gratitude, the more things I had to be grateful for. Because it got easier. And I started seeing what was right in front of me that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah. Your me, myself, and I elements just kind of came full circle. If you guys are listening to Stephanie, and really, and when I mean listen, I mean just absorbing everything that she had to say so far. And if there may be one or two things that you've missed, that's okay too, because I'm going to have so much awesome stuff to quote her on the blog. But I think the four main things that really stuck out in my mind was read more, laugh more, get out more, and be more grateful. And I think that's such a wonderful, positive message that anybody who's listening right now, you've got homework, and those are the four things that I want you to start working on. I know Stephanie does too. If you guys would like to request a freedom breakthrough strategy session with Stephanie, you can head over to me, myself. You can head over to me, myself, and iRadio.com/Stephanie, obviously, because I'll have this interview, all her stuff there. But you can also go to StephanieCalahan.com, and everything is right there just to get in touch with her and to kind of get your strategy, to get your vision, to get your business resparked, reignited like a catalyst. Stephanie is at the helm of whatever that you want to, bring into fruition, whatever you want your future to look like, your I elements, if you will. So, I mean, Stephanie, today has been so much fun. I'm so glad that we got this opportunity to speak to you and to just share your story, because it's, I can't wait to go back and edit this, because there's so much stuff that I'm going to take away from it once I listen through all the way again. So, I mean, is there anything, anywhere you want to send people? Do you have any special things going on right now? Any promotions or anything with everything that you do?
Well, thank you for asking. Because this episode is something that will last forever, right? What I'd like to invite any of the listeners to do is if you are interested in looking at your business in a way that can be holistic, where you can be fully you, and make a profit doing it, reach out to StephanieCalahan.com. There's a button there for work with me. There's all kinds of freebies that I have out there. And there's also social media links to connect. I'd love it if you'd choose to do any one or all of the above.
Yes. And you will, listeners, because we're going to have all this information on the blog and make it really easy for you. We're going to have stuff in the show notes if you're listening on iTunes, right behind the Me, Myself, and I radio banner. If you just click that on your mobile smartphone, we're going to have a brief description and summary of today's show, along with a couple of quick links just to get you started and off into the right direction. I just want to thank Stephanie so much for coming on today and really, really exploring the being that is Stephanie Calahan. As always, at the end of every show, guys, we like to urge you, no matter what the rest of your day brings, to control the controllable. As for the rest, keep on flowing and just be. This has been Me, Myself, and I Radio with my wonderful co-pilot, Stephanie. Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Tell me what to do. I need myself tonight.